Thank you so much, Chair Shuttleworth, and good evening, everyone. My first item is the professionalism policy and where we are. The Board of Trustees on January the 3rd passed the motion, be it resolved that the Director develop a professionalism policy which outlines the HDSB's expectation for all staff members, including requirement to maintain appropriate and professional standards of dress and decorum in the classroom, in keeping with the provisions outlined in the body of this report. The policy is to be presented in a report to the Board of Trustees by March 1st, 2023, and an interim report in February of 2023. My presentation here this evening represents that requirement for the interim report in February 2023. As we embark on this policy process, we're mindful that we are in a period of statutory freeze according to the Ontario Labour Relations Act. We will be relying, however, as we proceed on HDSB policies and procedures, the Ontario College of Teachers, any court rulings that might be appropriate, and any statutory and ministry standards as we deem them appropriate. The Board's policy and procedure framework governs the development of policy, and in which it states that a policy is a broad statement of intent and reflects the goal of the Halton District School Board. Policies shall provide direction and guidance in matters of board governance and system administration, and shall specify what and why. What is the strategic direction described by the policy, and why is the Halton District School Board committed to the objectives outlined in the said policy? The Board's policy provides a framework within which procedures are developed. The professionalism policy then will be presented on March the 1st in response to the motion that was provided on January 3rd, 2023. The policy will then be limited to what and why statements in keeping with the Board's policy and procedure framework. We'll be framing our position on existing statements that exist similar to what I outlined earlier. School councils and members of the public will be given an opportunity to have their views heard, so we will be providing some mechanism through which we will be soliciting views from school councils to hear their voices, and from other stakeholders as well. So stay tuned for that. We are making good progress in development of this draft policy to be presented March 1st, as stated previously, and I look forward to having that conversation, hearing from community and stakeholders, and determining our next steps. Thank you.
That's it.
Are there any questions from trustees? Vice Chair Rocha.
I have some questions.
Through you, Chair, I'd like to insert a question we've received from the public, and that is if you could describe how the board will be getting input from students on how they feel about a professionalism policy.
Please repeat the question for me, Vice Chair Rocha.
So the question is, if you could describe how the board would be getting input from students on how they feel about a professionalism policy.
We're going to be looking at our policy and procedure and its guidance in terms of the consultation that we need to do, and we will be following those strictly. So whatever stakeholders are to be included in that, I will make sure that they are included.
Trustee Baxter.
Thank you, through you, George.
Point of order, that didn't answer the question.
Trustee Baxter, please go ahead.
Director Ennis, thank you. Director Ennis, you touched on the, I guess what we call the next step after the procedure, or sorry, the policy is established and adopted. The next step would be the actual implementation through an administrative procedure, which is developed by staff. I wonder if you had any ideas of timeline on the development of that administrative procedure at this point.
I don't have a specific timeline on that, Trustee Baxter, through you, to the chair. We are, of course, going to be mindful of the statutory freeze that we are operating under according to the Ontario Labour Relations Act and its implications for staff.
You're full
And
of
so
shit.
we need to be mindful of that as we move forward in developing the procedure. So we will take the time we need to do that correctly, in keeping with the legislative requirements.
Sorry, how much time?
We had
I'm sorry, so to the gallery again, I'm just mindful, this is not an open forum, so you can sit and.
Well, it has to be at some point.
Are concerned about child sexual abuse. So we have children to be sexually abused by a teacher.
We're here for a timeline.
Every single time we have questions.
The parents are fed up with you allowing this teacher to sexually abuse the children.
They just asked about a timeline, you said you didn't have a timeline, but then you said we'll do it in time. So what is the timeline?
Great, but if I can
How
ask
many
those
months do we have to tolerate a teacher dressing up
We did.
in
We got it.
vulgar
Very fast.
fashion?
So I'm asking those who are being disruptive to please leave. So.
Yeah,
I think you're being disruptive to the parents. You guys have a job to do. If you can't do it, resign.
Children's education. We all know that the children have not been attending the classroom
Dude, you're
of this
incompetent,
teacher.
man. You're incompetent.
The
Go
children
find-
have
go
not
find a different
been-
job. You're terrible at this job.
Shame on you.
Get somebody who knows
Shame
what
on
to
you.
do.
Shame on you.
You're supposed to be taking care of
Shame on
kids.
yourself.
All right, my
Yeah,
kids are at the
shame.
school every
Our
day
children-
with these bullshit bomb threats going on. And you're gonna sit up here
Yes.
and we're gonna look at our policies and figure it out. Like, what do you think this is?
Our children
There's
are
kids
being
at the school,
abused.
dude.
This
Like,
is
fucking grow up, do something.
psychological and sexual abuse that this school board is allowing
Do
to
something.
continue.
Something, we cannot wait.
It's time to do something about the problem. The community has been disgusted by your lack of action.
We are the taxpayers, we pay your salaries.
It was actually a point of order, Madam Chair. Point of order, the question wasn't.
I'm really sorry, so I'm just letting you know that as a gallery, you cannot, and I'm entertaining this, even though I don't necessarily need to. As a point of order, people at the table can make a point of order, so thank you. Again, we appreciate you being able to be here. If you're able to sit and listen, you can stay, but
Our
right
children
now,
are being abused.
thank you.
Can I have my question at the end then, in the question part at the end, can I ask the question then? Isn't that the part of the meeting where we're allowed to, the public questions come up?
Yeah, we
Can I
submitted
do it?
questions.
So online, there are online questions,
I can't
ma'am.
do it in person here, and put my hand up and just ask a question in the public question.
No,
So nobody
because the
can get an
questions need to
answer
be
ever.
censored.
Right? Nobody can get an answer because you guys circle around,
We
circle around, you
submit
never
the
answer.
question
So
online.
what is the
Can we
timeline?
have the answer right here, because we are here, so we submit that question online already.
No, we're
The
here
questions are
because-
submitted, but they're not being answered. Just answer the questions.
Like we did March the 1st? April the 1st? When are we expecting some sort of ruling on the dress code for teachers as far as professionalism? 'Cause it seems like I couldn't even understand what he said.
Malfunctioning.
Fairly well educated, but I
Look at
couldn't understand what the word was, so
malfunctioning.
tell me.
What is going on? It's a circus world.
I guess. Waste of time.
Oh, wow.
We waited all this time for an answer, come on, guys, we're just asking for a
We
timeline.
just want a decent dress code, I don't understand what's the big issue
It's
here.
been months, guys, it's 6 months this has gone on.
Can't you just write no fetish wear in your policy?
Just asking for a timeline.
No buffoonery?
And how are you going to consult the students who didn't ask that question, answer that question, Director Ennis? You didn't answer it, I'm sorry.
We have a formal
How are
student
you
in
going
your,
to, how are you going to ask the students for their input? The question was not answered. Somebody, can one of you guys call a point of order then? Come on, guys, we're all here for this. Are you just ignoring us?
Yeah.
They are. Yes, what they said is That's correct. But anyway.
This is gonna be news
They're
around the world
malfunctioning.
again, when you can just simply answer the question.
You're making complete fools of yourselves.
You just, God, you guys, it's just not that hard. What is the timeline and how are you going to engage the students to get their input? It's simple questions.
You will be brought to justice by the court of law and by the court of public opinion. This will be your warning. You will be brought to justice.
You should take a look at the criminal code, all of you.
Yeah.
You really should. You really should.
You should resign.
You should look at the criminal code.
And pray that no bomb explodes anywhere, because I'm afraid to send my son to school every day. You know what it is?
Why
This
are you
is insane.
stopping?
Our children would be far better off sitting at home than in these indoctrination camps that are sexually abusing them.
That's right.
And these people who are being paid to protect them
It's
and
upset.
refuse
The board is upset.
to perform their obligations.
Why are you not
They're
talking?
malfunctioning.
It's
It's a malfunction.
there. It's so dysfunctional, guys. Come on. Timeline and how are you going
That's
to
probably what they're
engage
doing. They're just waiting for the
students?
police
That's all
officers
that-
to show up.
Yeah.
They made the call.
Yeah, you're right.
They're waiting for the police officers.
Really, Mom and Dad.
For asking a question? What?
It's something so simple.
So while we are waiting for the police, can we have a conversation here between you and us, guys?
Something, guys.
I know, we know already, you call the police.
I suggest you start pulling your kids out of the school.
So today teachers are allowed to mock women in grotesque costumes. Which category are they allowed to mock tomorrow?
But you know,
Are they going to be allowed to make a mockery of people of color or people of certain other cultural groups, appropriate their culture and their form of dress, and denigrate the women and the female children in our schools? You think that's okay?
We don't need. It's just a school board meeting.
You're so dangerous with your words.
Just answer.
You're so
asking
dangerous with your
questions,
words.
really simple questions, and there's no time. That's why. Nobody's violent, there's no violence, no one's swearing, everyone's.
So, we are happy to continue and to ask some of the questions that you are wanting answers to, but we need to be the ones to ask them. So if you can please sit and listen, we will try to ask the questions that you want answers to.
He tried to answer.
They brought it on themselves.
You can have a party in the house, just us.
We can have a discussion.
Just us now.